So we spoke about in the last episode the exclusion pyramid, right? And at the top of the exclusion pyramid, going from the easiest to solve down to the hardest to solve and the most invisible, we spoke about political exclusion and how, for the most part, we've created political inclusion. In this video, we're talking about the second layer, which is more difficult and more invisible, and is what we'd call economic exclusion. Being excluded from the economic space, from education, from the markets, from ownership, right? This is what we call economic exclusion. Now, obviously, political exclusion is not separate to economic exclusion. They're intimately linked, but economic inclusion is more difficult. And this is where we here in South Africa are trying to grapple with. We still haven't got it right. So often affirmative action legislation, here in South Africa we call it Black economic empowerment, is about drawing attention and creating economic inclusion. And it is a difficult and laborious process, but one which needs to be done. See, just because we have solved for political inclusion doesn't necessarily mean that it automatically solves for economic inclusion. And this is the work that we need to be doing, right? And it's about both grassroots, so working on education, creating more access to economy, resources, all of those elements, but it also has to be top-down, right, in terms of legislation as well. Forcing this economic inclusion within our spaces, financial inclusion, all of these words which are coming up, the second layer of the exclusion pyramid. But there's two other layers underneath it which become really, really tricky, ones which I don't think we've yet even spoken or addressed. So even though we've got political exclusion, right, we've got political inclusion, and we're really getting there in terms of economic inclusion, it does not mean that our inclusion journey is done. And in the next video, we talk about the third layer, very invisible layer, difficult layer, called social exclusion.